So that a brief look at the way things played out yesterday. What are you anticipating for the trading day ahead as we wrap yet another week up?
Well, there's a lot of caution in the market. It's just the beginning of the quarter. There's high expectation on the financial sector in terms of their performance. But at the same time, investors are really looking at market timing in terms of what are the entry levels. So we'll expect the market either to remain as it has been performing, or some marginal declines going forward.
Well, looking at a few companies that have been making news headlines, we've got Athi River Mining amongst them, saying that it's looking to establish a greater market, let's say, in the independent South Sudan, if it does in fact split from the north. The market surely receiving that news well, where it means just heightened growth prospects, one would assume, for Athi River Mining moving forward.
Well, that's true. You've seen how the price has been rallying over the past couple of weeks. The information has really filtered through the market, and for Southern Sudan, most Kenyan farms are really trying to make a rush there so that they're able to settle in before competition checks in. And you know, for Athi River Mining and Southern Sudan is basically will be focusing on infrastructure, and more infrastructure, and the ARM will gain on that.
Of course, where heavy investment is in infrastructure and increased aid flows are expected to spur economic growth. We've got banks that can surely leverage off that outlook even further, where we've got 20 to 25% growth being forecast for South Sudan. We know that Equity Bank and KCB have already entrenched quite a foothold within that space. How are you viewing those companies and the prospect of growth for them in that territory?
Well, there's still room for growth. KCB was a pioneer, and other banks want to follow suit. From the trend that we've seen, banks make acquisitions in Uganda. Then from Uganda, they make their path northwards into Southern Sudan. So it's basically a scramble for the opportunities that lies in terms of business growth, economic growth, and also the flows that will be coming in through the aid, as you've mentioned, and also through general economic productivity of the country.
Well, we're certainly something like the East African Community Market Protocol signing is a facilitator of trade and investment, like we're seeing filtered through now. Let's talk distribution networks, because this would be key in practically getting businesses to move product and to function effectively. What's your rating on that capacity, or are we looking at a pretty strong headwind in that regard in terms of distribution networks that are effective?
Well, when you talk about distribution and ESC, basically we are talking about open borders. Now, we've had problems with that. There was recently some news in the paper about Tanzania blocking some of Kenyan's exports. So basically, once the government start appreciating that actually we need to be able to move goods and services through the borders, that should be able to improve supply chain and distribution networks.
When it comes to Athi River Mining, of course, it now has the production capacity to actually cover this market. It's been distributing cement in South Sudan for the last 4 years, so the expertise is also there. What do you see the spelling for the other players within the cement space, the likes of Bamburi and East African Portland Cement as well?
Well, as I'd mentioned, for most of the farms going in, not only Athi River Mining, but other farms, it's about brand identity, trying to get the local Southern Sudan market to be able to identify with the brand. They want to be fast in the market, and they want to be able to ensure that they can secure volumes going 3-5 years, 10 years down the line. So what I'm thinking is that as at the time other players come in, Athi River Mining would have already been recouping its investment. Yeah.
So from a valuation perspective right now and those prospects for growth, when it comes to those players, safe to assume that you've got a buy rating on Athi River Mining at this stage?
Well, it's a bit of accumulation. But for the long-term buyer, definitely is a strong buy, because currently the multiples are a bit high. but that's mainly generated by the sentiments and also the growth prospects for the stock.
Well, in the meantime, we've got Safaricom yesterday seeing some favor after that share price hit a low. What is your view on Safaricom right now? Of course, we've heard news that it's seen a successful subscription of the second tranche of its bond issue, and that worth 4.5 billion shillings.
Yes, it managed to raise the 4.5 billion, mainly for expansion of the network and to be able to also have a robust network, because you know, with the lowering of the tariffs, there's more traffic flow in the networks, and most of the networks have not been able to sustain that. Now, Safaricom's fundamentals are still very strong. It's still a good company. The only thing letting Safaricom down is some technical aspect in terms of float, in terms of the number of shares trading. Probably if that can be reversed, then we could be able to see some gains.
Are you a buyer of Safaricom at the 4.30 shilling mark?
Yes.